Trapped was she, inside the hut, within the woods with open cuts. How she tried to scream and shout, her cries in vain without a doubt. For none would hear, far or near, no passing folk to sense her fear. Blood ran freely down her thighs, desperate tears ran from her eyes. Struggling hard to free her wrists, bound behind her back in fists. Her heart is pounding in her chest, sweat is dripping down her breast. The air is stark and inky black, wind whistles through the shack. She hears the quick swing of an axe, then thump to the log as it cracks. He was smart and clever too, there wasn't much he couldn't do, a charmer with a playful smile, suave with that hotshot style. He wined her, then dined her, and seemed a gentle kind sir, always made her feel as though she had the most attentive beau. Chop, 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 tension rising, the frantic feat was nail-biting. Like a movie in her mind, alas, she could not hit rewind. The axe was heard a swing too close as he sliced through the timber post. What did he want the kindle for? What putrid plans were in store? She'd fallen in a dreamy state, swallowed whole the sordid bait. Nothing could have helped her see the depth of his brutality. He whispered in her ear a treat. They'd be going on a trip to meet his sister and her fiancé. It would be such a special day. He placed a hand on her shoulder, tapped and tutted as if to scold her. You have let me down, my sweet. She thrashed her head and kicked her feet. He flexed his fingers in a rage, recklessly in hot rampage. You have made a fool of me. You undermine me endlessly. You think that you can treat me so, but I won't let you run the show. You will know who's boss round here. I think by now that should be clear. In hindsight, the signs were there, but at the time she didn't care. The jealousy was rife indeed, her innocence she had to plead. She thought upon a recent time when he said she'd crossed the line and all she'd simply done is smile, yet was enough to make him riled. They parked by the calm retreat, distant sound of livestock bleat. It all seemed so remote and still, a tad bit strange, but still tranquil. He said he had a nice surprise while his family wait inside, envisioning a sweet display on this grim and gruesome day. He produced a scarf and held her chin. My sweet, before we both go in, I want to take a moment here. He kissed her lips and drew her near. Then, before she could surmise, he secured the scarf around her eyes, led her to a rundown hut, tied her hands, began to touch. She did at first enjoy the fun where buttons had become undone, but touches were not so gentle as they had been given in the past. Grabbing, pulling, punching, biting wasn't long, for they were fighting. She did not want him touching, so she screamed for him to let her go. Then she felt the stinging pain. Blood was pouring down like rain. He'd cut her juicy thighs to shred, grabbed her neck, smashed her head. He dropped the axe by her side, knowing that her hands were tied, not knowing that the rope was frayed and getting thinner with each strain. He ran his fingers through her hair. You cannot know how much I care. I love you, but can't let you live. You undermine the love I give. He snatched a fistful of her locks. Benevolence he soon forgot, and yanked her head from side to side and twisted round to meet her eyes. But as he leant, the rope had snapped. She slid down her hand and seized the axe. In the dark he could not know the grisly way his death would go. She said, I'm sad you thought of me as a deceitful atrocity. And with a vengeful, bitter twist, she threw the axe and did not miss. Fierce were those violent blows she threw to him from head to toe, thrashed and pulverised his skull until he was quite limp and dull. She froze. Oh, Lord, what have I done? She dropped the axe and turned to run, with blood now truly on her hands, but finally free from his demands. She ran with speed through the trees, where only shadows could she see. She sprinted out across the moor, her aching limbs and back were sore. The rain began to fall with force, yet through the drench she met a horse, and as if a gift from heaven sent, she mounted it and off she went. She rode on far and even more, until she reached a granite tor. She left the mare at the base of the mound she now would face. Climbing the rocks in great distress, she contemplates this awful mess. Who was the victim in this chase, him or her that did disgrace? And whence she reached the precipice, in astonishment she'd come to this. She stretched her hands far out wide, as if she were one crucified, and deeply with a drawn-in breath she tipped herself from off the edge, and toppling down in wind and rain, another life a bastard claimed.